Hey guys, welcome back. Been a long time, I know, but the weather's been too hot to do anything, so I've been working on a model Vulcan instead. So anyway, today we're going to look at fitting this kit finally, and this is the Gwyn Lewis 4x4, the front of the rear wheel arch mud protection. I've talked about this before, but now we're actually looking at fitting it. In case you haven't seen this, this is basically what you get in the kit. At the back here you can see we've got the actual mud shields themselves. We've got these brackets here which replace those crappy steel brackets that go between the wheel arch and the wing. So you've got this there, and then those attached to there as well. So you can see it's all thick, sort of 4mm thick galvanized steel. And then we've got these galvanized steel plates here which are going to go into the base and actually support. This is going to go up in the top of the wheel arch. Then over here we've got all our hardware. Now something I do want to talk about with the hardware, if you take a magnet you will see that these screws here, they are, I thought they were stainless, they are plated steel. Basically everything is steel, okay? So if you want to upgrade to stainless, then you can do that now. You can see the quantities here that we've got. I've actually got these bolts here which I'm going to use for going inside the tub. Basically when you bolt the first bracket in, come on, when you bolt this first bracket in, you can see here it's bolted up through the top of the tub. So basically if you sat on the step in the tub, you'd be sitting on those bolts. Well, I've got the Land Rover rubber matting, so rather than have like the big chunky M6 bolt head, I'm going to have this stainless steel dome head. Okay, so that's what I've got for there. And also, just because I've got some stainless steel lock nuts as well. I've also got here a full box of stainless steel washers, so I may use them as well. Basically what I'm doing now is fitting this into the tub, and we're going to go through that, how we do it. My tub is upside down, so obviously it makes it a lot easier to film, probably easier to do as well. But basically I'll be taking it out again afterwards, because obviously I can't sit the tub on its base with these things sticking out the bottom. So this is just a fit to get all the holes in place before I paint inside the tub, and then I shall take them off, and then when it's all back onto the chassis I shall fit them on then. But obviously my holes will be drilled and I'll know what's going on, and because basically we've got to drill 2 holes in the tub for these brackets to fit, and then we've got to drill 2 holes in here for these to fit. And you will also notice on here there is a cutout. Where are we? On this mud shield here you can see we've got a cutout around here. Okay, I can't get it far enough from the camera. You can see we've got a cutout, and that is basically if you've got a TD5 or a Puma, obviously your fuel pump will be in the way, not fuel pump, your fuel filter will be in the way. So basically you fit that, you cut that out so it fits around the fuel filter. So let's go and have a look at getting this fitted. But before we do, I'll just show you what I've been up to on the tub. I have done some work, and I'll show you where we are with it. And there's Jess. Hello Jess, what are you doing? Jess. Hello Jess. Right, so we've got the tub here, and as you can see now, it is all painted on the underside rather than just having the sealant there. You can see around here where I did all the work for the bar. I got that in. That's all sort of brush painted on, mastic sealant, brushable sealer, and then, so that's all sealed in nice and solid now. Made sure all the holes and the rivets are all sealed up, and then basically just gone over and painted the whole underside. There was some rust starting to appear on these edges. There was rust starting to appear around these holes because obviously these parts here are steel. Okay, so basically what I've done is cleaned up all the rust, put some treatment on there, and then give them a real good couple of coats of paint. I've also painted all of this, and if we come round to here, you can see I've drilled a couple of holes here and here, and that's basically so I can run the lance down and get the wax oil into those members there, because I noticed there's some white powder starting to appear between these joints. So obviously we need to get some wax oil in there, stop things corroding. I can also get in these holes here with that. I'll get wax oil in there, and my intent is to do all the wax oil in, get these mud shields on, and then flip it over for its final time, paint the top half, and then we'll get it on the chassis. You can also see I've painted all this here. The finish isn't perfect, but it's basically good enough. It's just a paint protection rather than, you're never going to see this unless you lay underneath the vehicle. Around here I did notice something worth looking at. I noticed I had some areas here where there was no paint. Now, whether I rubbed it off, which was never painted in the first place, so I've painted that. This here had some rust starting, because obviously this piece here is steel. I had some rust starting here. Actually, is that steel or aluminium? It must be aluminium, because it's spot welded there. unless that panel there is also steel. I'm not sure what's going on here. It must be aluminium. Well, but basically I had some corrosion. I thought I had rust, I had brown staining on it. It must have been something else. But basically I rubbed off the corrosion, and then I've repainted that whole piece along there. There's also, you can just see a witness of it there, if I can catch it in the light. You can see around that bolt. That's obviously where they bolt it when they paint it, so there was no paint at all in that area. And there's also a couple of areas on that bulkhead at the front as well. So I've also painted along here. You can see there was a chip there. So rubbed that down, cleaned it, put some extra primer on it and painted it. And obviously gone all around all the whole tub. Basically, yeah, this is where to look for here. It was there. You see witness of it under the paint there, if I can catch it in the reflection. There you go, you can see there's an area there, and there's an area on this one the same. Obviously where they bolt plates on to paint the tub. So obviously under there, there's no paint at all, it's just bare aluminium. So worth looking out for. So there we go, and the last thing I'll show you is this area down in here. If you remember, I've done the work to correct this, where I cut these pieces out. Where are they? If you remember, these pieces were in here, kind of like that. They went in there, well, the other way, I was on this side, wasn't it? They went in there like that, if you remember, and that's where the bulkhead went. Well, I've remanufactured all that. That's all steel. There's no filler in it at all, and it's all ready to go now. It's all primed and everything on the top. So when I flip it over, just in case of getting some green paint on there, but I wanted to make sure I got some paint under here while it was upside down. So there we go. So let's have a look at fitting these mud flaps. Right, so first things to note, two different types of tub. Mine you've just seen is the square, but they're called the square tub, and then you've got this one which is called the step tub. And if you look at these pictures here, you can see the difference. Basically, if you've got a Puma or a later model with rear seats, you've probably got a step tub, so make sure you get the right kit. You can see the difference in the bracketry here. You can see this one has a step in the bracket and this one is just straight. Okay, so mine's a square tub, so it's kit GL1019. As I say, it's available from Gwyn Lewis 4x4, which is there. Okay, so first thing we do is have a look through the instructions. Now, I noticed Gwyn sent me these with the kit. Okay, now I got on well with Gwyn, and I've noticed their colour. And it says on the back of here, it says somewhere that these instructions may be printed out. Here we go. You can get a colour PDF of the instructions if you go to gwynlewis4x4.co.uk. Okay, so he sent me these colour ones. Maybe you'll get black and white. I don't know. But basically, when you order yours, if you want colour and you've got black and white, you can go to the site and download it. So here we've got the check. You've got your all your bits and pieces, so you can count the number of washers, nuts, bolts, speed nuts, and everything. Make sure you've got everything you need in your kit. Okay, and then you've got the step tub one here. You can see the difference in the brackets there. Now, the first thing you have to do, and this is where it says about cutting that section out. I'm not going to cut that out yet because it's going to help me line everything up centrally in the wheel arch, and then I can cut that out afterwards. Obviously, if you're doing this on your vehicle and it's all fitted to your vehicle, you're going to have to cut that out first because you won't be able to get it in. But I basically want to leave that in place so I can centralise it in the wheel arch, and then I can cut it out afterwards. I get it centralised between these areas here. In fact, I may be wrong. It may be there that it centralises, whatever. So the first thing I do is fit 3 U-clip fasteners to the top mounting bracket as shown. Okay, so we've got these brackets here, which are shown in the instructions, and I've got to fit 3 of these onto it. Now, I don't think they're going to fit very easily, and I'm not sure which way they go, but they go that way round. So flat face on the front. Now, is it going to go over this steel very easily, or do we need to open them up a bit? There we go, we'll go. So that's just going to slide over there, like so. We should be able to give that a little tap, actually. Let's just give that a little tap. Oops, I've gone a bit too far over it. There we go. So that's on like that. Okay, so we've got to put 3 of those on, and then what we've got to do is temporarily fasten the mud shield to the top mounting bracket with 3 speed screws. These are speed screws. Those things are called speed nuts. Centralise the shield in the tub. Make sure you're happy with the position of the shield before you drill the holes. So that's what I'll temporarily bolt that on now, and then we'll get over to the tub and drill some holes. Okay, so got it bolted onto there now with the speed nuts and 3 washers and 3 speed screws. So basically what we do is we have this butted up against here. Now if you've got a 200 TDI on the other side, obviously you're going to have your fuel filler here on the, so you need to make sure it's up nice and close. One thing I have noticed, I think we're going to have to drill a hole here that's not mentioned in the instructions for the pop clips that hold the wheel arch in. So what I'll do is I'll just mark that after it's in, and I'll drill a hole through just for clearance. But basically that's the way it goes in, and what I'm doing, I'm centralising it like this, okay? So putting it about in the centre, in the middle, so it's not touching either side. Okay, so it's like that. Okay, so it'll go in the middle there, have it butted up against there. I'm leaving this under seal material on here because that will keep the steel from the aluminium and stop the Galvic, whatever it's called, process going on. So we'll leave that on there, which is why I painted it first. And then basically, that's it. We need to drill some holes. So what I'm going to do, that just sits there because it's got a cutout there. So what I'm going to do is, rather than go through the galv, I'm going to mark here, okay, with the pen and Sharpie, and then take this out, and it should twist out of there like that. Okay, we can put that down. I won't put it down there because it's going to scratch the paint, because that's another thing I've noticed on the back of here. We've got, make sure you're in shot, on the back of here we've got sharp screw points sticking out, so just be careful not to catch yourself, and then maybe put something on them when you put it back together. Be careful when you're working on your vehicle. So, right, I mean there's no reason really why, once it's all together, you couldn't replace those speed screws with rubber nuts and bolts, which I think I will do. So, right, so I'm going to drill, I've got a 4mm drill here in the drill, and I'm just going to go through with the marked hole, and I'm going to go through. If you're doing this on your vehicle, make sure there's nothing above it, like you've got seats or anything in there or something sat on there. You won't be very happy if you drill holes in it. So put that on there, start off nice and slow, make sure it's not wandering. Drop this in just to check that it's those holes, the drill didn't wander. That first drill might have wandered slightly. There we go. So that's all nicely centred. Okay, that's good. So that hole there, the drill has wandered slightly towards you, so I have to make sure I drill it on a slight angle, but there we go. So I can drill them out now, 6.5mm. The reason I'm not drilling through the black bracket is because I don't want to cut the galvanise off around the hole. So this one here, I'm just going to drill slightly on an angle. There we go, and then that one there. Okay, and then once again, vacuum up the swarf. And then we can bolt this in place. That'll sit there. A couple of bolts. I'm not going to worry about washers and stuff because obviously, like I say, this is temporary. It's all going to come off again. So I'll get under there now, put some washers on there, and I'll use some ordinary nuts rather than nylocks. Okay, so the instructions now say to basically bolt this in place, unbolt this, smear plenty of grease on the back of the bracket to stop the corrosion, and then remove the mud shield. Okay, so we're going to take these speed screws out. And bear in mind, I'm going to keep repeating myself, this is a temporary fit because it's all coming off to be fitted properly once the tub's back on the chassis. But they're great for getting you going like this to get everything lined up. So we can take the mud shield out now, leave that bracket in place, and now we're going to go on replacing this bracket that goes in here. Okay, so this horrible thing can now get replaced. This is the bracket that bolts up under here and into here. Okay, so it bolts there and there, and this thing is, you can see it's rusty as hell. And what we're going to replace it with is something a lot more substantial. We've got a bracket here and a bracket here. So what we're going to do is mount this like this, and then this one is going to go in like this or like that. I can't think about looking at the instructions. And basically, no, it's going to go like that, sorry. It's going to go like that, okay, and bolt up through there. Now there are two holes in this end, you can see, and one is there to allow it to come out further to clear the fuel filter on a TD5. The other one there is just for normal fitting, so you can do either one, and that's why these holes are slotted, and you've got these holes here. Okay, so I've got that fitted now, just loosely. Now it's worth bearing in mind, as I say, you've got these two holes over here, so use the right one. I've used the normal one on this side, the other side is going to have to use the outer hole to clear the fuel filter. You've also got all that adjustment in there, and you can also get it out that way, so make sure you've got it parallel so that your mud shield isn't twisted if you're fussy like me, so you get it all nice and straight. The other thing is you've got all this adjustment here. Now when you take that rusty old bracket out, there's nothing supporting the wing, so I've used a spirit level, and I've basically worked out that if I pull it to its maximum then it's correct. So what I can do then is just come along with a ratchet and tighten these, okay, just to hold it in place. So remember, this is a temporary fit, and I can tighten this one. Give this one a nip if it'll tighten. Yeah. Okay, so now that's fitted in place, and the wing again is solid and not all floppy. But I don't know how it works out on yours, but on mine it's worked out that with this pulled out to its maximum, so the bolts are against the stops at the end of the slot, and it's worked out fine. So what we've got to do now is put the mud shield back in and mark these two holes in the mud shield and drill them. Okay, so we've got the mud shield fitted back in place. One thing I do want to show you, one thing of note, if you've got rock sliders, you may need to cut this to clear it, okay? So, and on the subject of rock sliders, if anyone can recommend me a good pair of rock sliders that fit and don't rust after 3 weeks, I'd be interested to know, please. After my experience with the Brit bar, bulkhead removal bar, I don't know if I want to go down that route again. So basically this will go in. Now if you notice, it goes in and it's fairly tight up against here, and I mentioned before about having these holes drilled so you can get these pop clips in. I was wrong. Basically you push this back in and it curves down like so, because this here should be centered around that slot there, okay? So with that pushed back like that, what you can do is mark the holes on the back. Now because this is black and the only pens I've got are black, I've put a piece of masking tape on there. So what I'll do is I'll turn the camera around and I'll show you marking those holes. Right, so piece of masking tape stuck on there. I'm going to push the mud shield so I've got a nice curvature on it. And this is centered and it's not quite touching. I don't know if you can see on the camera, there's an area, no you can't see on the camera because the bulkhead's in the way. But basically there's a step on there, I don't want that touching the tub because it'll rub and fret the paint. So there we go, get it like that, okay. Make sure it's square and you're happy. And then mark the holes. And I think what I will do, just before to make sure it is, I'm not looking for spirit level accuracy, but just to make sure it's not a mile off, I think what I'll do is push it down so those holes line up. Yeah, and it is square. What I'm trying to do is make sure the top isn't like this or like that. So there we go. So all we have to do now is take that mud shield out again, drill those holes. It says in the instructions an 8mm, but I'm going to use a 6.5. Okay, and then I'm also not going to use the speed nuts. I'm going to use nuts and bolts, and we can bolt that in like that. And there we go. You can see that's all bolted in now, and as you can see, this is a lot more solid than this rusty old crap. So that can go in the bin. But you can have a look there. See that all fitted in. There's Jess again. Jess, hello. She's going to the groomers in a minute. So there we go. That's all nice and solid, all galvanised steel. As you can see, I've used bolts on here rather than the speed nuts. Now, I would suggest if you want to do an upgrade to this kit, is get some M6 stainless steel nuts and bolts, and get some stainless steel washers, and then you should be good to go. I mean, it does say in the instructions to coat everything in grease to stop corrosion, but you know, we all know that stainless steel is good. And my suggestion to anyone would be don't use Allen headed bolts or socket cap screws. Sorry, choked there. Yeah, don't use socket cap screws, because what happens is they get full of muck and shit and you can't get an Allen key in there and then it rounds off. And just use ordinary hex bolts. And as I say, you could also get the bolts 5-8mm shorter because you can see we've got lots of thread hanging out on all of them. So there we go, that's that. And don't forget, if you're doing this on your truck, you're going to have a sill here or a rock slider you may have to take off to get to that bolt. But basically there we go, that's how it goes. So I'll get the other side done. We'll go a quick walk round, see how it looks from this side. As you can see, it's bloody awesome because it's now all the muck and shit. If you've got an early or a pre-TD5, it's going to save all the crap going over your fuel tank. It's going to save these areas here where the chassis mounts. You've got the chassis bolts going through here, you've got the bracket. You can see it on Gwyn's instructions here, this area here, where you've got the bracket going up that tubular part of the chassis, it's bolting onto the tub. You know, that there gets all clogged up with muck and shit and rust and everything, so it's going to protect all of that. You can see all that air that's down in there, so whatever your truck's got down in there is all now protected. So there we go. I'll get the other one on and then we'll see how they both look fitted, and we'll call that a day. And there we go, guys, that's the other side all fitted up. You can see it looks exactly the same, and then what I've got to do is do that cutout around here for the fuel filter. So I'll get round to that. When I take it off again, I'll cut that out. It says in the instructions cut it out with a hacksaw. I'm going to see if I can do it with a sharp knife or whatever, we'll see. But basically there we go, that's that side in. And this is the Gwyn Lewis GL 1019 for the square tub. This is a square tub. As you can see here, you've got the square wheel arch. And then you've got the GL 1020 for the step tub. And you can see there, that is the step tub. Okay, so it's easy to tell if you look inside your wheel arch. If you haven't got a load of steel bracing here, that you can see there, okay, if you haven't got that, then you've got a square tub. So there we are, and that's how it all looks from the other side. I haven't got enough washers. If you are going to do this with nuts and bolts, there aren't enough washers in the kit. I had two, I was out by two, so you know they've given you plenty of nuts and bolts and everything. So obviously I've used more washers than the kit advises because I haven't used speed nuts here. So it's accurately counted out the quantities. So as I say, if you're going to upgrade this, stainless steel nuts and bolts. I've already got the nuts, I've got the bolts for up, down in there. You could go 5mm shorter, so you could get sort of 20mm or 20mm long bolts would be better than these having all the threads hanging out. Get stainless steel washers. I wouldn't bother using those speed screws. They are very, very good for assembling it because you've got to keep taking this out. But rather than have all those sharp points underneath, I'm going to use nuts and bolts, right? So it's like this, rather than having those speed screws and you haven't got the sharp bits hanging out like you have down there. And of course the other thing is you're not going to scratch up all your galvanised, and it's less of a rust trap as well. So I'm going to use nuts and bolts there with washers. But as I say, it's beautiful. Oh, with this side here, if you remember, I had to pull it out this way to get it to fit in, you know, to keep the side nice and square. On this side, because I've used the outer bolt hole so it clears the fuel pump, I keep calling it a fuel pump, the fuel filter, I've pushed it in as far as it'll go. And so obviously these slots have worked out perfectly for my tub. I don't know how it's going to work on yours, but there we go. And there's that cutout you can see there. There's the cutout for the, I'm going to cut out for the fuel filter. Okay, so there we go. That has been the Gwyn Lewis Mud Shield kit. And this is obviously for the central one. And this is the one I think is probably, I don't know, they're probably all as important as each other. We've got one for back in here, and then we've got another one then for the back of the bulkhead, which protects. So I've got the bulkhead here. I've laid some paint down here now over that sealer that I put in. But basically it protects this area of the bulkhead here and your front cross member. So I'll be doing a video on that one as well. So I'll see you all soon. And there's Jess again. Jess. So I'll get her to the groomers. It's now, what is it? Just gone 1:30 and she's got to be there at 2. So I'll go and get changed and get her to the groomers. Get some shopping and then come back and take all this apart. I'll see you all soon, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.